What is going on, podcast family? My name is Will, aka Mark, and welcome back to the Poplitically Correct podcast. My apologies for the lengthy delay and just lengthy absence. Life takes you in some weird directions, but we're back. I want to start this video off with thank you to everyone who watched the Hancock video that's on this page. I wasn't expecting the overwhelming amount of love and support, or even some of the hate comments that were put on it, but honestly, I enjoy any engagement. I just like talking movies with people. So, with that being said, if you haven't seen that yet, and this is the first video you're seeing from me, go and check that one out and let me know. I'm also working on the next video essay for this channel. I've already put out a community post for it. I'm going to be working on Chronicle for that one. So if you're excited about that, stick around. That should be out this week. I'm working on the video essay. I'm just chunking away, getting it done. But with that being said, speaking of Chronicle, Michael B. Jordan and Sinner by Ryan Coogler. What can I really say besides this is really going to be my movie of the year unless something else is able to topple it, and it's going to take a monster of a movie to do that. I went to go see this in IMAX as it was intended, and honestly, this movie was a visual experience. It was a storytelling experience. It was honestly amazing. Without getting into too many spoilers, because I do want to leave room for those who watch it, maybe I'll talk spoilers at the end of the podcast. So if you stick around, I'll leave some timestamps down below, and we can talk spoilers later. But just when it comes to the performances, everything like that, Michael B. Jordan was a force in this movie, just kind of proving that he is a superstar in Hollywood and he's here to stay. But also we had an up-and-comer in Miles Catton in his very first role, and I was looking somewhere to see where it was I had seen him before, and he used to be one of the background vocalists for her back when she went on tour. So that makes sense when you watch this movie because he is an amazing instrumentalist and artist in terms of singing. His voice is very captivating, and that's kind of one of the points of this movie as well. Wunmi Masako, amazing in this movie also. Lee Jun Lee, yes, Lee Jun Lee, also amazing. Delroy Lindo, Jamie Lawson, Omar Miller. It's just all the performances really came together, and this movie was really good at getting you invested in all of these characters very fast. You know, the whole first probably hour and 45 minutes of this movie is all setup. And honestly, I kind of wish the setup was longer. I wish this movie was longer. And I've never said that about a movie that was like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. But considering I sat there and sat through both post-credit scenes, if you haven't seen this movie, there's two of them. Please stick around for both. They are both plenty enjoyable. I promise you, it's not a waste of your time. You're already there for 2 hours anyways. Stick around for the credits. But with that being said, I think this movie just really helps cement the fact that Ryan Coogler is a force in Hollywood and he's here to stay. I remember years ago I had done a video. It's archived now. I might even make it live if you guys want to try to, search YouTube and find it. But I talked about my favorite actor director duos. And one of the ones I mentioned was Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, because they've done Black Panther together. They've done Creed 1. I think Ryan Coogler was a producer for Creed 2 because he didn't direct it. I think it was Peter Gables. But or something Gables. I can't remember his first name. And they also did Fruitvale Station. So they've collaborated a lot, and they've kind of grown up together as well. And you kind of see that in this movie. It's kind of the culmination of all of those leading to here. And a lot of people were saying that, Jonathan Majors was supposed to be in this movie. I'd even argue maybe back in the day, Chadwick was planned to be in this movie as well, just because of the familiarity that he had with them and how tight-knit that group was. It's just, you can really see the chemistry between those two. And you can also still feel the presence of, a Chadwick or of a Jonathan Majors. I'm not going to get into the Jonathan Majors situation. I know that's very controversial. But, I just feel like this was a movie that was written for him to originally be in it, and it had to get changed. But with that being said, Michael B. Jordan playing twins in this movie, you actually would feel like they were two different characters. I forgot that it was one person superimposed twice. And that's just a testament to how they shot this movie extremely well. And it's a testament to how good Michael B. Jordan is as an actor. Some people don't really like to give him the credit that I feel like he deserves, but he's been a great actor in every movie he's been in, even the more obscure movies like That Awkward Moment with Zac Efron. I honestly thought that was a great movie out of him as well. I like Michael B. Jordan a lot. I like Ryan Coogler a lot. This movie just cemented them as here to stay. Now, in terms of how much money this movie's made, it's a bit of a slow burn. It actually made a good amount of money this past weekend. I think it made like $48 million domestically, $61 million total, which is amazing for an original horror movie. That, never happens. And also, this movie's going to end up gaining a lot more traction through word of mouth because it's all I see on social media right now. Everybody is talking about Sinners, and rightfully so. This movie is incredible. It's incredibly shot, incredibly acted, incredibly written. The themes behind it, it's kind of like a slavery type thing, but it's really more placed in the 1930s, so it's more of a sharecropper situation, which black people in America would be very familiar with that. I'm sure every black person in America whose family was affected by slavery also has a sharecropper story to go along with it. So it's one of those things where it was kind of relatable in a way, but it also showed us some of our history too, which I enjoyed seeing on film. I'm usually not a big fan of slavery material and slave movies, but this one just felt like it was so important to the culture that I had to go and see it. And, he proved me right. I knew Ryan Coogler would kind of handle it with the grace that it deserved. I just didn't know that he would handle it in such a way that it would be this good. And it really truly is that good. I can't overstate that enough. But that's enough, Sinners. We'll get back to it at the end if I remember to, obviously. But we're just kind of here to talk movies and talk movie news because I haven't done that in a while. And I like to kind of get caught up on everything that's going on. Also, before we get too far into the video, if you guys enjoy the content, if you guys enjoy any of that, please subscribe, hit the like button. And for those of you listening on audio on Spotify, leave a review. I'm not, trying to be the world's biggest podcaster in the world, but every review counts. And honestly, I just kind of want to hear what you guys' thoughts are and what I should fix and what you'd like to see. So let me know. That being said, I'm going to swap this over here because I am looking through Discussing Films Twitter page just to get caught up on some of the news from the day. It is currently 3:50 on Monday, April 21st. So if anything happens around or after this, I apologize that I missed it. That's kind of how time works. Let me refresh this page just so we can get the full benefit. All right, so Conclave releases on Prime Video tomorrow. I haven't even heard of this, but is that Ray Fiennes? It is Ray Fiennes. Okay. Interesting that they posted that this is going to release tomorrow and the Pope passed away today. Bit of an unfortunate coincidence there. Rest in peace to Pope Francis, by the way. Again, I'm not trying to start any controversy, just stating a person passed away and giving my condolences. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey behind the scenes on The Last of Us Season 2. This has been one of the more controversial stories because of Bella Ramsey more so than Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal is starting to get a bit of, fatigue from the fans. People are kind of getting tired of seeing him. Me personally, I don't really care too much. I think he's a good actor. Do I think he should play Joel Miller? He fits that role. It's a bit of a stretch, but it's acting at the end of the day. Bella Ramsey, however, is a little bit more of the controversial one here because for those of you who haven't played The Last of Us games, there's a pretty big time skip between The Last of Us 1 and The Last of Us 2. And Bella Ramsey looks 15 as it is, so in terms of aging her up, that was going to be difficult when she still looks like she's 15 anyways. So I don't think people are super happy about that, especially since the actress for Abby looks exactly like how Ellie looked in the games. So it's a bit weird that Bella Ramsey's playing that part. I don't even really know why they picked them. Bella Ramsey, them? I think I was referring to them as a her, and I apologize. Bella Ramsey, them. You ends this week after 7 years. I've only watched the first couple of seasons. It was pretty decent. How do you guys think I should go back and watch You? Is that worth the time? Should I go back and check it out? Ernie Hudson will star as Combat Carl in Toy Story 5. Carl Weathers, man. I always forget that he passed away. Rest in peace to Carl Weathers, dude. That's kind of sad. Exclusive video of The Weeknd and Jenna Ortega to Hurry Up Tomorrow. Dude, The Weeknd and these acting... I hope this is actually a good movie. Honestly, I really do hope this one's good. Because of how the other one fell apart. Not amazing right there. Andor Season 2 is far different from Season 1. I haven't seen Season 1 of Andor. I have a weird relationship with Star Wars. And even interacting with people who like Star Wars. I've had a lot of arguments with people on videos about Star Wars. It's a very controversial fan base. They like to argue a lot, and I've also learned a lot of Star Wars fans don't like Star Wars. Kind of what they've been proving to me over time is that it's just not something that really appeals to them. At least not anymore. They really like the original trilogy, but nothing after that, which if you like 3 out of 14, 15 properties that exist for Star Wars, I'm not really sure if you can call yourself a super fan, but there's also a lot of books too. So, like I said, it's a weird dynamic that they have with their own, franchise. This right here is the biggest news that I saw today, and I'm really excited about this. If anyone hasn't seen Ready or Not 1, I highly recommend it. Not highly guarantee it, sorry. Highly recommend it. It's a really good movie. It's one of those, it plays like a sort of indie horror movie in a way, but not really because it's super polished too. I just feel like a lot of people haven't seen this movie when they should have. It's one of the ones where the protagonist is actually pretty smart and they fight back in ways. Now, obviously, they can't be the smartest in the world, but it kind of gives the same vibes as like You're Next, if you've seen that as well. I really enjoy Ready or Not. So the next one is going to be titled Ready or Not, Here I Come. Now, my first questions when I see this is this a direct sequel or is this a prequel or what is this going to be? Because as far as we've seen, I believe she was the first person in a while in this family to draw, the short end of that stick, to actually end up getting hunted. So with the way the last one ended, I'm not exactly sure where that goes from there. Does she go looking for more people like this, or do they go with a whole different, group of people? I'm not really sure, but keeps things interesting at least. I'm excited I feel like whenever a horror movie has me confused as to where they're going to go next, they always find the most creative thing to do. So I can't even fault them for that. Now, this is a new rule that they implemented at the Oscars. The Academy is implementing rules to make sure that members will not be allowed to vote for the Oscars if they haven't demonstrated that they have watched all of the nominated films. I think this is interesting because it kind of shows that people have been voting for films that they haven't been watching. Now, a lot of people aren't super involved in like the Oscars or what the process is, but from what I've known, a lot of the Academy members, if you work in Hollywood, essentially you are in the Academy. And if you're trying to win any type of award, whether that be an Oscar or a Grammy, not the Tonys, because I feel like that one is a lot less biased, but Oscars, Grammys, and Emmys for sure, you have to kind of campaign. And at the end of the day, it comes down to who has the most friends that can vote for them, since the Academy is so tight-knit in the Hollywood community. But this is interesting because now they have to prove they've watched everything else too, which, being honest with you, I don't know how many Academy members have watched every single Oscars movie. I've watched every Oscars movie for, not last year, but probably the prior 8 years. So I'm not really sure what exactly. Yeah, I'm just not exactly sure what the process was before. Did they just let people vote and just off the honor system? Because that may skew things from the past. Like, I feel like people have won that, didn't deserve to win, and this kind of helps prove that sort of idea. Oh, okay, Ready or Not 2, and they've been cast alongside Samara Weaving and Catherine Newton. So yeah, this is going to be a sequel of sorts because Samara Weaving obviously was the star of the first rendition of this movie. So with them bringing her back, that is definitely interesting. Nick and Carlton Cuse are reportedly writing a new Star Wars TV series. They have written episodes of Lost, The Strain, Watchmen, and The Leftovers. If this episode of Star Wars or this show is anything like Lost, Watchmen, or The Leftovers, I haven't seen The Strain, so I can't speak on it. We're in for a treat. That should be pretty interesting. Final trailer for The Accountant 2. I never saw the first Accountant, but I've heard they're pretty good action movies. First look at Greta Lee and Wagner Moura. That's Pablo Escobar from Narcos, right? I think so. Coming soon to Netflix. Sci-fi thriller follows a family who are sealed inside their home with no way out and must work to survive against both their dwindling resources and the threat keeping them trapped. Okay. Cynthia Erivo. This for the second Wicked movie. Sinners overperformed official estimates and actually opened to a $48 million domestically. Yep, $48 million domestically. Biggest opening for an original film this decade. That is a real stat that Ryan Coogler was able to provide. Or not a real stat he was able to provide, but a real stat towards Ryan Coogler's career. I feel like a lot of people kind of lumped him into like the Marvel pool of people, like he was only gonna be able to make movies like that. But Sinners proved that he can do just about anything he wants, man. Honestly. Andor season 2 debuts with 96 on Rotten Tomatoes. I might actually have to check it out, honestly. I've heard Andor is good. I just haven't gotten around to it. First teaser for Zach Krieger's Weapons has been announced. Horror film follows an entire classroom of children who get out of their beds and disappear on one night without a trace. Okay. That's interesting. Is that like is it a Pied Piper type situation? It's so funny that Zach Krieger makes horror movies now, bro. Do you guys know who Zach Krieger is off the top of your head? If you don't, he's from The Whitest Kids You Know. Namely, he was Abraham Lincoln in that video, now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. That's Zach Krieger that's yelling that. Also, if you've seen, what was that movie? Miss March? He's the main character in Miss March. So, it's just kind of crazy that he makes horror movies, and he's made good horror movies up to this point. I believe Barbarian was his, was it not? Let me actually look that up. I don't want to just make things up off the top of my head. But I'm pretty sure Barbarian was directed and written by Zach Krieger. Yep. Barbarian is a 2022 horror thriller film written and directed by Zach Krieger in his solo screenwriting and directorial debut. And his second one is also going to be a horror movie, which, looking from here, it looks kind of creepy. Why are they running like that? I don't really like watching trailers too much. I don't want to give too much away. Also, they're making a new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie. Is this a reboot or is this a requel? Or I feel like this has to be a requel of sorts, right? Because isn't Sarah Michelle Gellar also in this one? I Know What You Did Last Summer 2025. I'm pretty sure Sarah Michelle Gellar is in this. Or am I tripping? Jennifer Love Hewitt, Freddie Prinze. Am I thinking of the wrong? Okay, let me see. I'm tripping. Why do I think Sarah Michelle Gellar? She's in so much other stuff. Jennifer Love Hewitt was in the original. She's also in this new one, along with Freddie Prinze Jr. So, is this a requel, sort of like Scream, where they're reviving a horror franchise and bringing it back? Quite possibly. And I saw this announcement today, not quite movie related, but Elder Scrolls 4, wow. Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is being remastered and will be revealed tomorrow. I never actually played Elder Scrolls 4. I played Skyrim, obviously, but, you know, I feel like Oblivion is one I always went to my friend's house and his older brother was playing. It was one of those kind of out of my range, and I never went back to it. But I guess this is my opportunity to now. Episode 2 of The Last of Us Season 2 is currently the highest rated episode of the series on IMDb. Yeah, just wait. Whenever they kill off Joel, I'd imagine these scores are going to end up plummeting at some point. And I don't know, man. I'm confused about this show, and I'm afraid to watch it. Paramount is eyeing to develop Sonic spin-off films. That's kind of obvious to me. They did the Knuckles TV show, which was actually pretty decent. And they got a lot of characters to work with. Like Shadow obviously can get his own films. He's gotten his own video games before. Sonic is Sonic. And, you know, the cast is so big and so varied that they can kind of do whatever they want, especially since they've proven that these movies are good. So I think Sonic the Hedgehog is here to stay. Star Wars anime. The Disney Plus in 2026. I'm not going to lie. I might actually check that out. I enjoy anime quite a bit. Matter of fact, taking a break from looking through Twitter. Do you guys read anime? Or read anime? Do you guys read manga or watch anime? Because I can also talk about that stuff as well if you guys enjoy that. Because right now, the ones I'm keeping up with on a week to week, I don't keep up with a ton of stuff week to week, but I read Sakamoto Days. I keep up with Kagurabachi, which is amazing right now. I'm getting caught up on Shangri-La Frontier. I'm only on like chapter 6 right now, so I'm not too far into that. I read Boruto, which I know a lot of people crap on it, but the manga for Boruto is actually pretty decent. And I also keep up with Dragon Ball whenever that comes back, hopefully. But I kind of read a lot of different stuff. I read all of Fire Force. I read all of Attack on Titan. I never watched the end of Attack on Titan. I just read it. Um, so yeah, if you guys ever want sections like that or segments like that, let me know because I can definitely do that. But yeah, let's get back over here to the news. I'm not gonna do too much scrolling today, guys, because this is me just kind of getting my feet wet again. With the next one, I actually kind of wanted to do a tier list because I talked about a lot of Will Smith movies, but I never really gave my opinions on the other ones. So I'm gonna make a tier list. That's gonna be an episode also this week. So stay tuned. That will be with you in a couple days, and it might buy me a little bit more time for that Chronicle video to get done, which also should be this week. Center stats: A on Cinema Score, 4.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, #1 at the domestic box office, best reviewed wide release film this decade, and biggest domestic opening for an original film this decade. I mean, there's what else can you really ask for in this instance, bro? Like, there's nothing you can ask for. And John Cena breaking the WWE record. I am not a big WWE fan, but I also can recognize how big of a moment this is. I also just love John Cena as an actor and as a person. I feel like he's a great dude. But he's now he's the all-time leader in world title reigns. It was Ric Flair prior. Now it's John Cena. And yeah, since everything else is just kind of that, I'm not going to go through days and days of stuff. Not going to bore you guys like that. But with that being said, if you guys have gotten to this part of the video and you have not seen Sinners yet and you don't want any spoilers, please click away. This is your opportunity right now to just, get out of here and go on about your day. And then you can come back if you want to see and hear about what my thoughts were on the actual film itself with, spoilers involved. If not, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So, with Sinners, obviously vampire movie. There's a lot going on in terms of like the sharecropping and just the environment that it takes place in. Also with the fact that the two characters that Michael B. Jordan plays in this are both, World War I veterans. So they're both veterans. They both moved out to Chicago and they were working with, I think someone made a one-off statement that they were working with Al Capone. And they had a bunch of money and they were able to put together, and they go and buy a mill from obviously an old racist in the town. Now, where stuff gets a little complicated, someone asked them where they get the money from, and they never really answer. But you can kind of assume if they're working with Al Capone, these guys are kind of moving the way they're moving, they probably stole a bunch of money from Al Capone. Now, if word of that spread or not, I don't know what the case is, but that's at least the source of where that money came from. I can't wait till this movie comes out on Blu-ray. Then I can actually do a real breakdown and analysis for you because I'm just going based off of memory right now. So they buy this old mill. They're getting reconnected back with the town that they left 7 years ago. And you see one of Michael B. Jordan's characters. Well, I guess the two of them, I'll let you know. The Smokestack twins. One Smoke, one a Stack. I think their names are... I think Smoke is Elijah and Stack is Elias. But when it comes down to how they act, they're very different personalities. Stack is the way more flamboyant, sort of boisterous one that, you can tell he's kind of friends with people. He's the charmer. Whereas Smoke is the, all right, we're just here to get business done. I'm here to get this done in the best way possible. Don't get in my way type of guy. No nonsense. So obviously two very different characters for Michael B. Jordan to play, which in a way, like I said, he's a really good actor in this because he has to juggle so much between those two and still make them feel like they're their own separate characters, which they very much do. And also we get introduced to Sammy. Yeah, Sammy, played by Miles Catton. And in that instance, he is the cousin of Smoke and Stack, and his father is the town preacher. So they call him Preacher Boy. He's really good at playing guitar, and for the night, he is planning to go with Smoke and Stack to go play at the old mill that they purchased because they're turning it into a juke joint. Juke joint's just another word for like a bar, little side bar for mainly for black people only back in the day because they weren't welcomed into other spaces, so kind of had to create their own spaces. So I thought it was so cool just looking at this film with Miles Catton because this is his very first movie ever. And when it comes to him playing the guitar, when it comes to when you hear his voice and him singing, it is captivating. Like, it truly is. Like, he's really good at it. And when you see that he learned how to play blues guitar in, like, I think 2 months, he started learning 2 months before filming. He practiced 5 hours a day. You would think he was a natural, honestly. And this music all being put together by Ludwig Göransson, who I've also felt like I've watched kind of progress through his career, and also finding out he was roommates with Ryan Coogler in college is insane as well. But this music feels enchanting, honestly. It's so good. I never listened to blues music, and this movie really made me want to start. Like, if they, obviously, I think they will put out a soundtrack for this, and if it's not already out, I'm going to put that on my playlist because this is all super enjoying to listen to. So skipping ahead a little bit, we get introduced to the vampires of the film, or at least the vampire of the film, played by Jack O'Connell. And I thought it was so funny that when they introduce him into the movie, the first thing I thought was, where the hell did he fall from? If you guys watch this movie, his introduction into it is he falls out of the sky in a way. And he walks up to this couple who we find out is also, an old clan couple, blah, blah, blah. And he assimilates them into the vampire stuff. Now, I don't want this to be a full-on breakdown of this movie because I do plan on doing that with this movie later. But when it comes to the themes behind this, when it comes to racism, when it comes to the fact that they used an Irishman to play this vampire, because the Irish really do sort of sympathize with, the black plight back in the day. Now, are all Irish people not racist? I can't speak for that, and I'm not going to try to. But what this movie tries to convey is that this guy is ultimately pretty sympathetic towards black people and their plight in this movie. He realizes they're at a disadvantage, and his whole thing is he's more of like a cult leader that just happens to be a vampire, because the thing that he's preaching throughout the entirety of this movie is just fellowship and love. Fellowship and love. He wants to bring everybody in, bring them together, and everybody to live forever and reach towards this common goal. Which I don't know if you could ever reach that common goal if everyone's a vampire, because it just seems like you're getting rid of your food source, but that's just different logic there. But when it comes down to his performance too, because him and the people with him were also playing music, but it wasn't like the blues and stuff that we've been hearing before, but it was more of a like folk music. But the thing that brings them towards, this whole group with two Michael B. Jordan twins, with Miles' character, with all of them over there, the thing that brings them there is them hearing Sammy's music, because it's able to sort of transcend. What they say is that a good song can transcend sort of time, and it allows you to commune with your ancestors in the past and your ancestors in the future, or I guess descendants in the future. So this whole movie is kind of about how that connection can happen through music as well, which this movie does. All the music in this movie is great, and it's sort of just, in a way, it's just mesmerizing. Even the folk music, which you would think that in this instance they would make it kind of whack, to make you be like, I don't really want them to be around, that these vampires are playing. Even the characters in the movie are like, dang, they're not half bad. This is pretty good. Because it is. Just all of the music is good in this movie. It's incredible. But when it comes down to the real struggle of this movie, it all kind of comes down to they play around a lot with the vampire needing to be invited in. Like, it's very, very explicitly said multiple times in this movie that they need to be invited in or they can't get in. Now, does that play into a greater theme of the movie as well? I also think it does. Now, am I prepared to talk about that? No. I've only seen this movie once, and it was a couple days ago, so I'm not going to dive into it too much, but I do know that a lot of vampire movies and culture as of late hasn't really capitalized on that. They need to be invited in. I even feel like Nosferatu kind of played with it, but they didn't really go full-fledged. Like, there's still scenes that can be left up to interpretation as to whether he was inside the house or not, or if he was invading dreams, or what the case was with that. It kind of felt like he could do whatever he wanted, and it's not really true vampire lore, but that's a different movie and different, setup. But this movie kind of sticks to that, and they play it very well, because these characters, they don't know who to trust. And I think that's very important in this. You don't really know who to trust. You don't know who to let in. And, shout out to that movie, but you got to let the right people in. Now, when it comes to the horror aspects of this movie isn't really all that scary. There's parts that are suspenseful. There's parts you don't know what's going to happen next. Obviously, it plays more like a thriller, I feel like, than a straight up horror movie. But I will say the gore, the effects, the blood, all of that looks incredible in this movie. So I'm not going to say that it just straight up isn't horror. It has a lot of horror elements to it, and I think it does lean horror to the side of horror, but it's more suspenseful than anything. Um, hmm. I want to figure out how much I really want to get into this movie. I guess we'll just talk about how I felt about how the movie ended, because the movie kind of ends literally how it begins, because at the beginning they show us Sammy coming back to the church after what was definitely a rough night for him, you know? So he gets there and you show his preacher father trying to get him to rebuke all the stuff he was doing at the juke joint and rebuke music and just stay in town and stay with him and stay involved with the church. But we don't know what the end result of that is or what led us to that point up until the end when we finally get back around to it. Now, when it comes to these vampires and if anybody survives this movie, Sammy is the only real survivor of this movie. He makes it back, he doesn't decide to stay in town, and he leaves to pursue his career in music, which he has a pretty good career out in Chicago. He leaves and he does that. Now, why I say he's the only real survivor, all the vampires end up dying except for two. The one's played by Haley Steinfeld, the one played by Michael B. Jordan, which is Stack. He got turned into a vampire earlier in the movie. Now, when it comes to the Smokestack twins, I didn't really understand the ending too much when it comes to how that happened, because I'll just get to it. Smoke makes Stack agree to not go after Sammy anymore, and he wouldn't kill him. And Haley Steinfeld as a vampire, she escaped earlier in the movie because she left when she saw Annie, Smoke's I'm gonna call her his wife, or at least his girl, Smoke's girl, die, who's killed by Stack, by the way. It's just, that's the only part of the movie I really have a problem with, because it shows that he could make a deal with them and they can show restraint, you know, but obviously they couldn't show enough restraint in that moment to not kill people that they love. Like the other patrons, it makes sense because they're not really attached to them, you know, especially since Smoke and Stack have been gone for the last 6-7 years. But you would at least think that it would warrant a conversation between Stack and Annie before he just straight up like kills her. And that just doesn't really happen. But when he shows the restraint at the end after making that deal, you know, that's a little bit weirder to me, which is why I guess I kind of need to look into vampire lore a little bit more, because is it a thing with vampires and deals that they can't break deals? If you make one with them, they have to keep it and they have to honor it? Or what? Because in a way, that sort of plays with that whole, you know, making a deal with the devil. But at the same time, Sammy didn't make a deal with the devil. Smoke made a deal with the devil for him? But I digress. Smoke and Mary, I believe is her name, Mary. Yeah, they get away and they're still vampires, and they meet up with old Sammy later on. And Sammy says, you know, I still wake up with nightmares about that day. But I can't help but think that, like, before the sun went down, that was the best day of my life. And he asked Stack and he asked Mary if they felt the same way. And Stack said, hell yeah, he did, because that was the last time he saw his brother. That was the last time he saw the sun. And for a few minutes, he was free. For a few hours, you know, he was free. So it's just one of those, it hits hard. Minus any of the gripes that I have with it. It's just, it hits really hard. What else do I want to talk about before we get out of here with this movie? Because I did have something else. Oh, come on, Will. Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget. Don't forget. Oh my God, I'm gonna forget. Oh no. See, that's why I need to go see this movie again. Honestly, when I would get this on Blu-ray, this movie's gonna be on repeat. I'm gonna love this. And it's gonna be up on the YouTube channel. But what else do I want to say about this? Delroy Lindo was hilarious in this movie. I don't want to let that be not said enough. He was amazing. But also in the times where he had to give sort of that serious speech, but then gets right back into the music and stuff. It just kind of shows that whole, you know, people had trauma going on, but they just had to move past it and just keep going because there wasn't real time to process it, which in a way also, you know, hits pretty hard. But what else did I want to say about this movie before we get out of here? I don't know. If it comes to me, I'll record it in another segment for this because I can't remember. But if you guys got this far, thank you for listening. I'm sorry you guys had to just kind of listen to my ramblings for 35 minutes, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what a podcast is, right? If you guys want these to be more focused and have more of a topic to them, we can definitely do that too. Or if you want to see guests, let me know and we can do that too. But if you like the content, sorry. If you like the content, please make sure you drop a like and leave a comment down below about what you guys want to see in this podcast or on this channel, because at the end of the day, I don't make these videos for myself. I make them for you all, but it is my thoughts. So it's just me portraying myself to you guys through what you want to see. So let me know. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe if you're on the YouTube, or follow if you're on Spotify. And with that being said, thank you so much. Peace.